How we doing, Bear Nation? We are back again with another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. It is, as we're recording this, officially 2023, second episode of the year going to be coming out. And, really just excited. I think 2022 went by so fast. So I'm excited to get into a topic today around purpose-driven business and charity work, which leads you to my guest, Katya Samotoi. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
Yes. Kaya has over 16 years of work experience ranging from a lot of different spaces. She's worked in medicine to dancing, bartending to heavy machinery, fashion designer, operations manager, and she also has launched her own e-commerce brands, and also now CEO and co-founder of a charitable organization. And I think that's so cool to kind of bring up and this topic of purpose driven, because all these different experiences have led you down this path to your passion, which we'll get into, which I know your mission, which I love, is to make this world a better place by helping companies grow into brands that innovate and do good. And the reason why I love that and talk about that is I have a book called The Social Soul, and big on creating brands that drive growth and passion, right? And that's something that we both connected over. So Katya, welcome to the show. I know it was a long-winded intro, but welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to share everything I know.
Yeah. Well, we're excited. So let's start with this. Tell me a little bit, you're currently, if I'm not mistaken, in Dublin right now, right? So you've kind
Galway.
of what?
It's Galway. It's west coast of Ireland.
Galway now. Okay, so Galway now. So over in Ireland, which I absolutely love that country. And you've had kind of a bounce around journey to get there. We just talked about all those different work experiences, but tell me, when was it through all these different things, right? From medicine to dancing to bartending, heavy machinery. When did the ideation of you saying, I'm working in all these jobs and these experiences to, I want to be a fucking CEO. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do something bigger. Was there a memorable moment? Was there a shift? When in your life really did things kind of change over from work to passion?
Yes, there was a change. There was a moment when I realized that I need to do something on my own, and I remember it very good. I think it was after my first burnout. And so I tried a lot of things. I have a medical degree, and I think I always wanted to help people, and I always try to, through anything I do, I try to prioritize that to do something that can help someone else. So, that's why I studied medicine. That's why I worked all those things. Then I traveled a lot as well. I mean, I lived in Australia for 5 years, where I was selling cranes. That's a very cool experience. That's where I realized that I need to do something on my own, because I found the pattern, because it brings me kind of to not a burnout, but I'm getting not satisfied with the job because I'm putting so much in it as it was mine, but it's not. And in the end of the day, I'm following someone else's values and someone else's vision rather than my own, but I put too much effort in it. So that's how I come up to entrepreneurship and running business. And I tried a few things, but now it's a charity, and also vice versa as well.
So before we get into kind of what you're doing currently, when you decided to launch your own first business, what was it? Was it a brand? Was it a product?
No, it was the agency, because I came back from Australia to Ukraine, and because living in Australia, I realized that the medicine was very expensive, or for example, some surgeries or some procedures, you have to wait years. So, and I realized that this problem is in many countries, in the United States as well. Same as here in Ireland, and I started an agency that does medical tourism. So basically, there's dentists, there's plastic surgeons, there's anything, because quality of medicine in Ukraine is incredible. It's like one of the best in my opinion in the world, and I've been many places. And the price is fairly low, and also you can book procedures on a day. So I thought it was like that could be business. So that was my first venture.
Nice. And what was your biggest lesson from your first venture when you started that? what do you think was kind of your biggest lesson that you learned, key takeaway, failure
Yeah.
experience from the first kind of business that you started?
I think the main thing I realized, again, for myself personally, you need a partner. It's very hard to do everything on your own unless you're just freelancing. So it's not even just physically hard to everything to do on your own, but also mentally it's hard to bear all the responsibilities. And it's easy, even if everything goes to shit, I'm sorry for my language, you still have someone to share this disappointment with. So I think that's what I would recommend also people who just starting, maybe try to find a partner. But that's, I think that's another issue that is very important as well, that the partner needs to be right. It's like a relationship.
Yeah, I know that there's some people out there that, um, there's kind of two schools of thought that you either have like one CEO one CEO founder, because there can only be one head coach. But I'm a big proponent of having kind of like multiple, and having that partnership, because you have that kind of ability to lean, and no one person can handle all of it. No one person is smart enough, and there are exceptions, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, even Jeff Bezos, um, Steve Jobs, like you think of these big, people that put up these big companies, Melissa Meyer with Yahoo. At the end of the day, they had to hire people smarter than them to do the things they couldn't,
Yes.
right? And really driving a big business or growth comes from putting the right people in the places to be successful. So I'm a big proponent of having that co-founder. In fact, the first company I started, I had a co-founder, and I think it was the best experience to do things. So I'm with you on that. So as you kind of, you've traveled the world a lot, being from Ukraine, um, living in Australia and um, Ireland and all over the place. What kind of led you through these experiences to starting the companies that you have now in Viceroy Group and Ditto? What kind of led you from that first experience to today, as you kind of go through this path of passion and understanding what that is and launching these different businesses?
I What I learned and how it led me there, I think the first of all, I was learning a lot as I was going, as I was growing, as I was testing things, failing things, which is the best part of it. And but yeah, as I said before, I knew I wanted to make a difference. I knew it since I was very, very small. I was like, I need to have a big, big purpose. And that's where I came with. That's where we came with Viceroy, myself and my co-founders as well. So we started with launching a brand that called Fragile Club. I mean, it still exists. So it's a purpose-driven brand which had no like non-profit kind of model. We manufactured the clothes in Ukraine, which is still there now, under a bit of a shelling. And the brand was about mental health, and the idea was to sell things, make money, and donate them to mental health, to fight stigma, to fight uh, I don't know, different how do you say it, um, the basically to raise awareness and so on about mental health. Then we started to do. Then COVID came, and then we started to uh, we did the masks, and which went really good, and which is amazing product. And and then it just started to go on with different brands. For example, Dr. Foster is the immune supplement that's natural, and also it's produced in Africa, which gives the work to people in Uganda. So basically, everything you kind of do, because you do need to make money. That, I mean, the business can't survive without it. But I think you have to have a bigger goal in mind, bigger purpose in mind than just making money.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, with Viceroy, you're really focused on building brands for creators through kind of purpose driven idea, DTC, right? Direct
Yes.
to consumer. When you're working with others and you're looking to launch these brands, when we think about purpose driven, right, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. what does purpose driven mean to you, and how do you help others see what purpose driven means in context of brands?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, purpose driven means to me that your business outcome is not just monetary value, but the help for to other people or to communities or to planet, to anything. Basically, it's not just money. The business outcome is not just money, and it's the money. When you, because it's a lot of people I know, a lot of businessmen I know, a lot of entrepreneurs I know, which for me they're two different ones. It, because he could be you're always a businessman, but not always an entrepreneur. And sometimes you have to make a decision in the company when you either choose profit or more ethical ways. So, and that's why where this purpose-driven idea comes as well. That you're always gonna go for ethical choice rather than just making money.
I know sustainability, ethical choices, it's a hot topic of conversation, and everyone talks about it, but very few do about it, right? So how do you, I guess, for those that are interested in the space, right? You work with these brands. How do you find those type of companies, right? And the reason why I ask this is we know that millennials and Gen Z want to work for companies that are purpose driven. In fact, um, like over 51% of companies don't have an employee value proposition, which is like, what is the employee's purpose and the purpose of the company for the employee? And millennials and Gen Z want that. So when you start thinking about purpose driven companies in this community, how does one go about finding that community? How do you get in touch with those type of companies? How does one actually get to be in this space of purpose driven, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think if you want to find that company, you as for example an employee, you you go the first you go for what you want to do, then you do basically analysis and you see what companies do. And also the good thing as well, which I believe, if you can find founders or CEOs or top management in the company on LinkedIn, and you can see what they're posting about. If they in my opinion, if companies said, "Oh, we're all about mental health," and then someone says, "Oh, I can't deal with trauma," which is the founder, is like that's not how it doesn't work, because it's like you don't see what people say, you see what they do.
And actions speak louder than words. So,
Yes.
you know, um, when we think about this this idea of mental health, you've talked about it a couple of times, and you brought up that kind of that second burnout was when you decided to be an entrepreneur. Tell me a little bit about your experience with burnout and mental health, and why is that so important to you? And what are some of the things that maybe you do as a multiple company founder to protect your mental health while still being able to drive business?
Yeah, that's also the good question. I mean, I'm still figuring out how to deal with that. And it's very hard, because if you put your heart into something, there is a very big chance you will burn out. And it's not bad, but I think what what I personally do is the therapy. Therapy is good, even if you don't need the therapy, the coach. I think it's the same idea, but it just helps you to navigate more. It's like going to the gym to build muscles. The same with the therapy is train your emotional responses to the thing, how to validate them, and how to actually avoid the burnout. So that's I learned it hard way. And yeah, and you need to, like, when you seek, I believe there is no money worse, or nor business opportunity worse your health, your mental health, your family as well. So it's like, I know it's hard to do the work life balance. It's hard for many. I know a lot of people say, but if you running your business, life is your business, is because it's so entangled together. It's very hard to separate. So you just need to make sure that you, when you feel like you're getting there, you take a breath, take some time, maybe some time off, and just and then move on. Because it's like, if you seek, you can't do anything, and it just
So I love that you brought this up because there's kind of two schools of thought. There's people that work for passion, and there's people that work to live, right? And both are okay. I'm in the work for passion camp, but I think both are okay, right? There are people that work so that they can have all these passions like traveling or this or that outside of it. And there's others that work and their work is their passion, like us, for example.
Yeah.
So when I hear work life balance, to me, one, I think it's important, but I think it's a bit kind of a cop out. I was like, oh, work life balance. So I was like, what do you mean work life balance? Like, what is work life balance to you? Right? Like, I work hard and I work a lot, but I also give myself a lot of breaks. Like, I work in sprints. My wife will, she needs more time, and she works in a career where she works longer hours, and it's a little bit different. Where I work in really hard sprints, right? And so like I set my schedule up where if there's a World Cup game on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I go to the bar and watch that. But I may make that up in the evening. I may make that up in another day. So to me, work life balance is really this ideation that you understand when you can sprint and when you can kind of need to slow back. And you made this great point about it's like working out, right? We know the why we go to the gym, and we put our bodies to that so that our bodies can be trained for different responses, right? Our brain is a muscle. It's the most powerful muscle we have, but it's so taboo to go to therapy or work on mental health or meditate because it seems woo woo or taboo or whatever it is, when all of our neurons are firing, everything that we do, fight or flight, is up here. This follows up here,
Yeah.
right? Your body follows what our brain sends. So why are we so afraid to work on it?
I guess there is a lot of stigma about this, and then especially what I found is there is a lot of stigma for men, especially because women are more allowed to show the emotions or to say, "Oh, I'm burnout" and stuff. But men is like, "Oh no, yeah, why are you crying like a baby?" and stuff, which I think is awful. And I think a lot of issues that we have in the world are coming from this as well. So yeah, and it needs. I think the stigma needs to end, but and I can see the differences coming already.
Well, it's funny because we have these stigmas, but if you look at the most powerful leaders in the world, male and female, or I guess any gender fluidity, right? Any powerful leader, they all talk about the need for a coach. They have somebody for a therapist. They have somebody to, if nothing else, they have somebody to talk through, because sometimes you need to just talk it out.
Yeah,
Sometimes you need to say it in a safe space. There's times where I like will complain about something, and whoever I'm talking to, usually my wife, sometimes my mindset coach will be, which is who introduced us, Anna. Um, she'll sometimes be like, "Well, do you want to like anything?" I was like, "No, I just needed to say it. I needed to say the fucking thing, get it out of my mouth, get it out of my brain, get it out of my head. I don't want to digest it. Don't need to talk about it. I don't even want to think about it again. I just needed to get it out so that
yeah.
it's not percolating up there and causing issues." And I think that, especially for men more so, I think it's just like you're supposed to hold everything in and just like keep bearing it down on top of each other
That's,
when
it doesn't work like this. The thing is like you bearing things, but eventually they're gonna come out, and they're gonna if you keep suppressing some feelings or emotions or whatever you feel like a bad ideas and stuff, if you keep suppressing or ignoring it, they're gonna manifest in something really bad. And I know on my own experience because like in Ukraine we don't. I mean now it's more, but I never knew about mental health. We had like two. It's like you're either crazy and you in a hospital, or you just need to work harder on the things. And that's why when I got my first burnout, when I got my first panic attack, I was like, I have a cancer. That's it. So yeah,
I think that the most important thing is for everyone out there. And I had an episode earlier with an awesome coach named Mitch Webb, who we talked about this. But the first step is to talk about it. If you're ever dealing with something or having an issue, find somebody to talk to. And if you need, like I always tell people, like I can be that person to talk to. I can be a starting place. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mental health provider, but I can always help point you in the right direction. Happy to listen. And it's important to know who in your life that you can have those conversations with, right? And especially as entrepreneurs, when we think about the context of the show and founders, you're going to go through a lot quickly. And there's a lot of stresses of running a business, making money, paying employees health and wellness,
Yeah,
right?
worrying about employees is very the big one. It's
Yeah, so you need
it's
those kind of outlets,
yeah,
right? I love it. And I love that we can talk about this. And that's something that, I know you're passionate about and myself as well. And it kind of ties into, this impact driven company that you created, which really leads me to, what I really wanted to get into today. And it's the really fucking awesome work you're doing with Ditto.
yeah. It's Dido.
If it,
It's the,
what?
it's Dido, and it
Dido,
stands
sorry.
for it stands for decentralized impact driven organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dido. So talk to me about it, right? Like, you talk about charity is broken and mainstream, we talk about mainstream media filters, truth and you're here to change that. So talk about how did this come about? What was the impetus behind it? Tell me about what you're building.
Yeah, I love it. It's something I'm really, really proud of. So it started as I'm Ukrainian, just so everyone knows. I'm Ukrainian. My family is there, and as the world knows, since February 24th last year, Russia attacked my country, and there is still war going on. We're doing really good, but still a lot of things needed, and the humanitarian aid and clothes and so on and ammunition. And what we started to do, like a lot of Ukrainians, which another thing that is very, very powerful is the volunteers and how people self-organize, and they create this insane network of people knowing each other, and it just works. You call one person, and you need, I don't know, a tank, and after half an hour you have already someone who can sell you or find you where to buy it. And it's like, that's something that is incredible, and to see it and to be part of it is so inspiring. So how we come up with the idea that the charity is broken, because when the war started, there was a lot of evacuation, there was a lot of occupied territories, there was a lot of bombed houses, medical needs, and so on. And the big charities, I won't name them, so I'm not getting sued, just in case. But what was happening, there were a lot of humanitarian aid. They were coming through with the machine, the trucks and bringing stuff, but they all were stopped in the east, or sorry, on the west, when there was nothing happening, and no one wanted to drive through to the east because that's where the an actual action was happening. So what we started to do, and like my friends, my brother, my like the people who I didn't speak for like 10 years, what they started to do is just to organize it themselves. So they found some, because shops were closed, pharmacies were closed, everything was closed, so people were staying at home. And what they started to do, they were starting to find some food producers, or the shops, like a small shops, or the pharmacies, or medical supply warehouses, and they contacted them, and they were going there buying stuff like in cash and stuff, and then delivering it to the people. And it was happening so fast because my mom has a heart condition, and she needs to take the pills, and she ran out of them, and there's no pharmacies. Like, you literally have to, I don't know what I would do if it was not up to volunteers who, like, in 2 days, the people who I never met in my life, I didn't even send the money. It's like, oh, what do you need? It's like this, and it's like, okay, so in 2 days they deliver it. And that's where idea for Dido was born, because the first, there is no bureaucracy. It's like, you don't need to do the, I don't know, if when you need to react fast, you don't need to do the all the procurement things, to put some quotas, to check the prices, compare the market, do the tenders, and so on. You need to act so fast, as fast as you can. So that's what was happening with volunteers, and that's where we understood that the current system, the charity systems, the charity companies, they are broken. The first of all, you have no idea where your money go when you donate them, because there is a lot of project, and also about at least 60% goes to pay people who work there, and a lot of them are working just pushing papers. I know it from like a first hand, and I think it's just a waste of resources. And the second one is that the processes are long, because the more people you have involved, the longer it is. And this chain, and you also have to pay someone, and then there's the volunteers as well. So it's all long, and in the crisis situation, the needs are changing. They're constantly changing, because today, and very fast, because they're just not able to react. It's like, yeah, today we need the medicine. Tomorrow we need the, I don't know, food. Now we have food that someone donated, and like next day we need some sleeping bags, and so on and so on. And that's why when you work with people on the ground, I think I mean, we started it with Ukraine, but it's going to be moving everywhere. So any crisis relief, any like tsunami, tornado, hurricanes, all those things, when you need to act fast, that's where it's happening. So that's how we built Dido. It's decentralized, because we kind of help to move things around, but people donate directly on the causes, and they know where the money go, because they get content back. That's another part of the things, because when I send money to volunteers, and they buy, let's say, medicine, and they deliver it to some old people in the occupied territories, they take the pictures, so I know that my money went there. They didn't pocket them or anything, and that's what we're going to do with Dido. So you're buying a content by doing amazing charity work at the same time, and you get, yeah, and you get a tax rebate as well. So it's like a win-win-win.
I think that's important, right? In this idea, in an age of digital enlightenment, in an age of hyper connectivity and content, I think it's really important to know where your money is going and why, right? And as long as that content is showing where your money is going, how it's helped somebody else, and not being exploited for, you know, obviously, exploiting it to like, oh, look at me, I did, but like, hey, I'm excited, like, this happened. In fact, I had friends in Ukraine who, from there got out, went to Poland, and were basically driving across the country every day and like sending us pictures, like we donate money. It's like, hey, here's what we bought, here's what you're providing, we're taking it here today, and they tell us what city, right? And like, it was really nice. In a time of crisis, you're not like, kind of like, oh, it's nice to know where my money's going, but it was great, it looking back on it, to see that your money made an impact, that what we're able to donate, what we're able to rally and do, and what you saw them doing made an impact. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, who've grown up, and there's a lot of great organizations out there, charities, things that started with people's heart in the right place. But as they grow and get so big, there's always some sort of corruption and greed and scandal. And,
Yes.
you know, unfortunately, that's human fallibility,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it, a company like Dido, to me, keeps the heart of the purpose over profit, right? And I know it's
Yeah.
something that you had a great quote when we were talking kind of preemptively about purpose over profit, right? When a business, and I'm probably going to butcher this, so you can say it the right way. When business is just about money, it's not really a business, right? It needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. If purpose of the business is to make money, business has no purpose. That's
Yes,
yeah.
that is the line that I was waiting. I couldn't remember how to say it, but I love this, right? And it does remind us that, there. And I tell founders this all the time: if you're creating a business just to turn a profit, that is okay, but be very clear about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't act like you're doing something else,
Oh yes,
right? Like, hey,
100%.
our business
Yeah.
is profit driven. This is exactly why we exist,
Yeah.
and this is what we're about.
Yeah.
Because
But
then you get the people that actually want to work. You're not. But if you want to be about more, you got to be about more, right?
yes.
You got to do. You got to act. And I
Yeah.
think so many people are like, oh, we want to be climate conscious or sustainable or this, but then they don't do anything. They
No.
donate a little bit of money. Hey,
Yeah.
we
So they're
did our
never going to
part. We
be.
created a video, and it's like bullshit. Like, don't
Yeah.
fucking lie to us. Like, we know, we
Yeah.
see when people are out there. We have so much social media content.
Yeah.
We know that none of your employees are out donating. We know none of your employees are being a part of a food drive. We know that all this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to have companies that show us what it means to have purpose.
Yeah. But it's beside that as well is because purpose is usually something defined by your values, and values is something you leave out in the world every day. You can't just say, oh, I value mental health, or I value help to people, about I value to be honest with the thing, and then you know, you help people once and then you just scamming people, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't work like this. It's like, if you're either doing good and you leave it out in the world every single day, you may not necessarily that you donate money every day or walking out that lady across the road, but at least something. You say something, you do something, you post something. But if you just did it once, it's like, good on you, but it doesn't define you as a good person. And also, especially when you do it to hype on the business and say, oh, look at this, we are such an impact driven business, we donated, I don't know, something to somewhere to poor kids. It doesn't work as well like this. It makes you look worse than if you wouldn't do anything. And yes, and I agree with you about if you're an asshole and you own it, I have more respect to you if you're an asshole and pretending to be not to. That's
Sometimes you got to be who you are for better or for worse. But I think that so many bit brands are reactive to times of crisis and things, and they want to try to capitalize on it. But it's not like, if you're claiming to be an ally of something, you need to show it day in and day out. You can't just do it one day, 1 week, or 1 month, right? And
yes,
you can celebrate it in that day, week, or month,
yeah,
if the other 300 and whatever days of the
yeah,
year you're being about it, right? And I think that's really important with our
yeah,
current age of enlightenment and content, that we be about it, because it's really easy to see if you're not. And
yeah,
all you have to do is a quick Google search and find out, what kind of actions. If you have like one article a year, it's like, we donated this, and it's like every about the same time every year. Really, is that action? No.
no.
So I think it's
That's
really
why.
important for us to see that.
Yeah, that's why I love Gen Zs, because they call you on your bullshit straight away. It's like, you can't nowadays is so hard to be, or to do something, dodgy, or pretend to be something that you're not, because you're gonna be called on your bullshit straight away. And we can see it happening a lot, because there is the ex-employees coming out, and some people who worked with them, the clients, and so on and so on. It's like, yeah, that doesn't, everyone tries to do the diversity, tries to do some things, but then they're not actually do, they're just hiring people with different backgrounds or different sexuality or sexual orientation or different genders, but they still not providing enough resources for them, and they it just not uh, I don't think it's working like this. I have a friend, she is Muslim, and she was saying that when you're working for the company, it's all good. They all want to um, hire diverse. Anyways, to show the world that they're really good and awesome. But then they don't provide you, for example, some time off for prayers. Like, it's not the things, but you need to be educated about the cause as well. You need to understand people's needs before you actually hiring them just to look good.
As we're in 2023 now, right? And we're looking at this next year. What is on your plate? We're talking about, the companies that you have, with Dido and Visceroy. So what are you kind of focused on? Where does 2023 Katya focus her purpose driven impact, and saving her mental health for
Yeah.
by not doing too much this year? Where are you kind of looking to create the biggest impact, for the 2023?
Yeah, I think Dido will be the one of the biggest hits, but again, just because you don't really need to manage it much, because everything gonna be automated, so people can deal with the things. Also, I think we're gonna hire people there as well to help with the content, but in general, it's very very simple model. And with Viceroy, my idea is to help influencers or content creators, people with big audiences, to build the brands that are impact driven, not just brands, but then when they can do the difference using the model that we did with Viceroy before, when it was just the we had our own brands. That's
Love that. So how do you, as a founder of both companies, and I know that you said Dido is going to be more automated, but how are you kind of dividing your time? How do you kind of manage your focus so that you can give all of Katya to both
yeah.
businesses when it's required?
Yeah, but because I'm putting my most of my time on the Viceroy because that's the business and stuff. When Dido is more passion, because I spent a lot of time doing a lot of things for Ukraine, for refugees here in Ireland. I was point of contact for a lot of them at some point, and plus I'm coordinating volunteers in Ukraine. So I was already spending time for this, or helping my friends, or helping my family, or helping friends of friends, and so on, whoever I could, or even just, I don't know, going with someone to the hospital because they can't speak the language and they have problems. So just the small things. So basically, that's the time that I'm dedicating for the charity work, for the impact work. So that's the Dido, because Dido is not, doesn't feel like work,
Yeah,
does it?
that's it's amazing what passion and charity and things come out of conflict. I know that I'm sure it's been not easy for you looking with your family back home and things like that. But being able to innovate and create opportunity to make an impact, that happens usually in times of crisis. That's where, if we look at history, most innovation in all areas of humanity has come during times of conflict and crisis, for
Yeah.
better or for worse. And so it's really cool that you've had that opportunity to do that. And hopefully, for the most part, your family and friends have been safe, and you've been able to manage your own mental health through that, because I'm sure it's not easy when you're trying to help everybody else.
Antidepressants help.
No.
There's always a solution, temporary, but it is. But yeah, it's hard for many people to deal with that, especially not being in the country, because
Yeah.
somehow it's easier when you're there than when you're outside. And I heard it from many friends. It's just, I don't know.
Is it because you feel helpless? Like you kind of feel like you
Yes.
can't help be helpful
Yeah.
when you're not
Well,
there? Is that
yeah, I think you feel more in control when you're there. You kind of like, you're not really in control, obviously, of the drones and stuff, but you feel like you know what's going on. But here, when you're outside, you just like watch the news, see what's going on, and then all the rumors, and yeah, it's tough, I think, for many people. But it's a good driver, as you said. I mean, crisis is bad, war is awful, but it's a good driver for a change. And I can see a lot of changes happening also in the country, and I think in the world as well. The Ukraine gave a really good push to digital development that in the governments, the ones that have most of the bureaucracy going on there.
hopefully 2023 can provide a year of some closure and um, some further innovation to help humanity's cause to go back in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, what to kind of close this out, what if somebody were to ask you for advice on a Gen Zer, we talked a little about Gen Z in this. So say like a Gen Zer comes up, it's like, Kaya, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to start a business or I want to start a brand. What advice do you have for me? What would you tell them?
I think the first I would ask, what is the driver behind it? Do you want to do it because you have an idea and you want to innovate something and you really want to make a change, or you just think that it's going to bring you more money? Uh, I mean, both things are working, but you need to understand. You need to have this answer for yourself, so you know what direction you go. And then for the brand or for the business, I would tell, go for it. Why not? just just you need to understand that it's going to involve a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and a lot of work, but the results might be incredible.
Love that. And I always like to ask this question to people. Um, what do you think your superpower is? What is
I'm
Katya's
I'm
superpower?
Ukrainian. That's my superpower. No, I'm joking. I mean, not really, but yeah, I think my superpower is. to make complex things or concept simple, to explain, for example, like you would explain a complex thing to a child, or to modify the processes to make it simple and not heavy with for example, business processes was not heavy with documentations, with like a different chain of commands and stuff. Just make it as straight as possible. And I think that's my superpower.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a really important one. I think both are important, right? Being Ukrainian,
Yeah,
it's definitely a superpower. Where you're from, when it drives resiliency and a strong will and attitude to fight for something. I think that's always a good superpower. But the complex thing simple is something that's not easy to do. Not to to be able to really create and take complex things and make it make sense, because that's not easy. And a lot of things are complex. And I think that's part of what I love about your mission with Dido, right? Is charities are complex, and when you think of politics and all these things that happen in the world, our media tries to make it black and white. It's either this or that, and it's not, right? Like, all of these things are complex, but we look at them in silos of black and white when it's not. And I think that if we can get back to understanding that things are complex, if we can help share and create conversation and opportunity around those complex things, and conversations that are meaningful, and maybe at the level that people can understand it together, hell, we might have some better conversations and more innovations coming our way,
yeah,
right? Um,
100%, and more people
yeah,
involved.
exactly. So I think that's an amazing skill to have, and one that I think is perfect for the work that you're doing, both with the brand's work of creating impact driven direct consumer brands, as well as what you're doing with Dido. And I'm excited to see what happens with it in 2023. I know it's more of your passion project, but I feel like 2023 is going to give you a lot of opportunity to make something happen with it. So I'm really excited to see what happens for
Yes,
you
we're
in
gonna
this year.
see. Yeah, we're gonna see.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to appreciate having you. How can my listeners find you? If somebody wants to get involved, learn a bit more, connect with you, where can they connect with you at?
So I think the best one would be LinkedIn. I'm always there. I'm fairly responsive. It's Katya Samotoi, very easy to find. Or you can get in contact through Dido. The website is wearedido.com, which is easy to find as well.
I will make sure to also link your LinkedIn profile and the company website in the show notes. So those listening, you can easily click on the show notes, go directly there, and get in touch with Katya. I highly, highly recommend that you follow along with her journey and what they're building, because it is something special and really cool. So, Kaya, thank you so much for being a part of the Bare Necessities podcast, being a part of Bare Nation. I appreciate you taking some time with me to record this episode. I appreciate you and excited to see what happens.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a big, big pleasure.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Bare Nation, as always, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay well and rise up. Bare Nation, thanks for listening to the Bare Necessities of Entrepreneurship. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review.